Do you think, let me ask it this way, do you think that the trafficking of children is an epidemic or pandemic in the world, and specifically the United States? And if so, what are the causes of it, sir?
Well, obviously, if you want to go into I'm fighting for my life here now. See, there you can always talk about the wicked. I really like to talk about the middle third that won't do anything. I think they, at the end of this whole journey, will be the ones that did nothing. That group, I think, is the biggest evil in this whole thing. They refuse to look at it because they don't want to believe it. If I was, for example, I recently went to Poland and I visited Auschwitz. And I'm sure there were some soldiers that saw it, and they did. And I'm sure that when they went back, they were called crazy, conspiracy theorists and whatnot, but that turned out to be true. So now we look at our children and nothing's being done. But look what just happened on Monday. You know, the Durham report came that we were told that Trump is this evil man, and turns out he's not, and that Biden is good.
Hang on one second. I want to make sure everybody's got it, because the tickets are sounding like mad here. It's go to angel.com/war room. To get the discount, it's Angel10 for a 10% discount. Angel.com/war room. Put in the discount code Angel10 and the War Room Posse gets 10%. Jim, I've just got a couple minutes in this block, and obviously we're going to hold you through, but here's a question. Yeah. When you say the middle third, that's basically your everyday Americans just getting on with their lives. And they they got a debt ceiling, their economy's collapsing, they got invasion of the southern border, they got war in Ukraine, they got AIs about to destroy humanity. They got enough on their plate. Why is this pandemic, why is this of such a level that you're saying that if they don't respond, they're equivalent to the Germans who looked the other way when the Jews were being slaughtered in the death camps? Sir, we got a minute and I'll hold you through. Just tee it up. Well, why is the middle third, who just are not paying attention or not engaged, why are you equating them to the quote-unquote good Germans who looked the other way?
Boy, if that was going on at this moment, if we had a film like this, it would have really hurt the Nazis, I'll tell you. But you'll have a movie like this soon. And then there'll be a big question asked of you. What did you do? And many will have nowhere to hide. Look, I'm
Jim,
not the good
Jim, hang on. I'm gonna go to break, and I want to hold all this because it's gonna be great. It's angel.com/war room. Put in Angel10 thing on the border and the number of missing children. Testimony saying 85,000 right now of the hundreds of thousands that have come in. It is, and here's about getting the tickets. You might want to get a couple of three, because the key here is Jim keeps talking about the middle third. It's like in the revolution, right? We keep saying a third of people patriots, a third were Tories, a third are in the middle, and that third in the middle is always the determinate. They're the ones that determine. So we keep saying when the American people make up their mind, well, the patriots make up their mind early on. It's that middle third that comes over every time in American history, and like in a fourth turning where we are now, it's that middle third. And that's why Jim Caviezel is saying, hey, they're like the Germans, as I said this morning on about AI, after the war, there were no Nazis, right? Nobody knew a Nazi. Nobody remembered any Nazis. Well, Jim Caviezel is equating the middle third in this topic of child trafficking, right? Human child trafficking for sex, let's be blunt about it, is the middle third. And they've got to awaken. And this film is to do it. Angel.com/war room. The code is Angel10 for your 10% discount. and you're already this audience, and buy some additional tickets for those that may have not be awakened to this topic. That middle third. If you know someone in the middle third that Jim Caviezel is talking about, bring them to the theater with you. Now, here's the thing I will tell you. You're not going to be slumming here. This film, well, Jim, I'll let you talk about it. You're a filmmaker. You and I met on a film. You have made amazingly quality films. I think Passion is still the number one box office outside of the cartoon movies, the comic book movies, a real film. Just give me, because I'm about to play a segment, and the segment's quite disturbing. So for all the homeschoolers, you may want to get the kids and just put them in the other room for a few minutes, because this is although it's rated fine, it's a tough part of the film. Not visually, but the topic they're going through. Jim Caviezel, about the quality of this movie, give me a minute or two about because I want people that are not naturally inclined to see this film or to see a Jim Caviezel movie, are evangelical Christians or traditional Catholics. Those are the ones we want to see this film. Tell me about the quality of it.
It's one of the best things I've ever done. The quality is a thrill ride. I know it's everything you want when you're sitting at the edge of your seat. And it's a true story. There's nothing. So the level of taken easily, filmmaking quality of it is Alejandro Monteverde. This guy is one of the best filmmakers I've ever seen. Mel Gibson had a great hand in helping in the editing some of this to help in the pacing. And those that saw it earlier will see this at a 10 times better, because a lot of people saw the film in the earlier cuts, but they were still blown away. And this is how you know it's that good, when you don't leave the theater. I saw that happen in Schindler's List. I saw that happen in The Passion of the Christ, and I saw that happen here.
Okay, let's play the angel.com/war room, angel 10. Get your tickets in We're trying to send a message on this to make sure that we sell 2 million tickets in the representation of the 2 million children. Let's go ahead and play. Let's go ahead and play part of this film. We've got 9 minutes, but I'm gonna come in and bring Jim back into the conversation. Let's go ahead and hit it.
Or one American child, or one American trafficker. What reason DC would let you within 1 million miles of it?
Glamour shots of Miss Cartagena don't count.
She has the girl.
And I say the girl's in Russia. Prove me wrong.
It's over, Tim. Close up. Get on the plane and come back home.
Bureaucracy. This is why I operate black. Have a nice flight, Timoteo.
You were a cartel guy.
Yeah?
Kept your mouth shut, did your time. Could have picked up where you left off. Bought yourself a condo on the beach. Instead, you're doing this. Why?
Really? I had that condo on the beach. 15th floor, marble everything, overlooking the whole bay. First night out of jail, I slept in my own bed. Day 2, I was back in business. Same old life. But it doesn't feel right. Not the drugs, not the hookers. But damn it, if I didn't keep trying. So, one night, I'm leaving a bar all jacked up on coca, and I notice notice this young girl on the corner, fine looking, maybe 20, 25. Take her up to my place, we do the deed, pay the bill. She's putting on her shoes, and I notice something. I notice her foot. She's got these little paint cat faces painted on her toenails. And it hit me. She's not 25. And she glances up and her eyes connect. And it was like I was granted a glimpse into her soul. And all I saw was sadness. Out of nowhere, she starts talking. Turns out she's not 25, not even 20. This girl is 14 years old to Mateo. She's been doing it since she was 6. Looks at me, smiles, takes the money, walks out the door. All of a sudden, I'm hit by this tidal wave, this tsunami of darkness. And I know I'm the sadness in her eyes. Me. I'm the darkness. And I know the darkness has to die. So I get my 45. Put it to my head. Put my finger on the trigger. Now, if there is a time to ask if God exists, that would be it. So I did. When God tells you what to do, you cannot hesitate.
God's children are not for sale. The movie is The Sound of Freedom. Jim Caviezel, is this a true story, or was any of this embellished for dramatic purposes in this?
All right, so we did the Count of Monte Cristo. By way of analogy, you have 1,200 pages, 88 characters. Now, people love this movie. We had to get it down to 100 minutes. So I don't have time to show you 10,000 minutes of the heroic stuff that Tim Ballard has done. That would be a show that will last for about 15 years. So we had to get it down to what you're seeing right there. This is the basis of everything, which is that God's children are not for sale. And that when God tells you to do something, you don't hesitate. And I wanted to drop an F-bomb in there because I thought it was so urgent right now. That when you're in war, if we land on D-Day Beach, I'll let a few F words go by. You know what I mean? This movie tears you to pieces. A lot of these lines that Alejandro generously allowed me to put in there, because it did. I couldn't sleep for 2 years. When I go into a film, I look at all of the analysis of, if I'm in frequency of, I'm look with someone like Louis Lilla, who is one of the most brilliant homicide detectives you could ever work with, or a guy that Mike Tando, who helped solve the case of Ted Bundy. You get to see things you don't want to see. When you look at a crucifixion of Jesus Christ, you get to see things that you don't want to see because you see other crucifixions. You have to look at the Shroud of Turin and see, is this real? What do you think happens when you have to go look at what happens to children? You have to investigate it. And I don't understand. I guess I have more idealistic mind, because I want to tell people, if you just would come with me, and they would say, no, the media doesn't say this. No, that can't be true. You're crazy. I'm not into hurting children. I'm trying to help them. And then you start realizing that people don't want to see this film for one reason. They don't want to feel that guilt when they know that when they watch this movie, they're not going to do a thing. And so there's a lot of dialogue in this that hits you so hard that it asks you a question: what are you going to do in this life? God's given you a lot. What are you going to do? Well, I see it all. If we're willing to let our children, it may be that we might be in such a place where it's like Sodom and Gomorrah. Our children aren't even worth it. But give me a few good Lots, a few good men, a few good Marines, and we could do a lot. But I'm not leading from behind anymore. I'm leading from the front. I don't choose to be that guy. But after not being able to do the films that I wanted to do, I was left with doing films that no one wanted to do, like The Passion of the Christ. But I think Mel Gibson's a decent director. I mean, some of you might not think so, but I think he's pretty good. And we don't go out and do faith-based movies. Faith-based is basically saying we're not good enough to go up against Hollywood or that industry. I make movies with great filmmakers. They won't be appreciated in this time, but in the years to come, they'll say there's the most important films they've ever seen, and this is one of them. That's why 2 million people, or 2 million children right now, is what I'm looking for.
Hang on, Jim. Let me go to break. Angel.com/war room. We're trying to make sure that 2 million folks sign up for tickets and let the theater owners know that this film is going to be a blockbuster. I hate to get down to the grubby commercial aspects of this, but you got to show people it can work. Go to angel.com/war room. Angel 10. You can get the discount for the tickets there, and of course you can get other tickets. Make sure you take that middle third are the folks who want the War Room Posse to take to this. Jim, I know, look, you say you got this apparatus, it's got these central bankers, it's got all these guys, government officials, it's got all these bad people, the evil people, and they're doing all this. But if you didn't have a demand side of the equation, in that scene right there, if you didn't have people, particularly, I guess, men, right, who had appetites for this and prepared to pay for it, you wouldn't have a problem. In the dark heart, we look in the dark heart as ourselves. Isn't that what we have to if we want to cure this pandemic or epidemic, isn't the simplest way to work on those people or that had these inclinations or do this, because that takes away the demand side, and then you wouldn't have the rest of it? Or am I being incredibly naive on this topic, sir?
You're a very brilliant man. And few people like you, Steve, still leave room for God to touch your heart, that there's something more brilliant in this universe. I wanted to be a part of this movie for one purpose. I was reading a lot about Ronald Reagan, and it was another movie I wanted to do. You made one of the greatest documentaries that I've ever seen, and that was called In the Face of Evil. And if you haven't seen it, folks, you should see that. That's why it's 2 million people for 2 million children. It is vital that you go and get your tickets today. You can't wait until the 4th of July, because if you do, we won't have the theaters for your fellow countrymen to see this. It's going to be led by people that know what is going on. But I go back to you, and I mentioned this in your documentary, and this would be one of the greatest films ever made. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children the last best hope of men on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last step into 1,000 years of darkness. We're at war now with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said, if we lose this war, and in so doing lose this great way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those of us that had the most to lose did the least. to prevent it from happening. Well, I think it's high time now that we ask ourselves if we still even know the freedoms that were intended for us by our founding fathers. Every generation of Americans needs to know that freedom exists, not to do what you like, but having the right to do what you ought. And in the words of Reagan, evil is powerless if the good are unafraid. My fellow Americans, be part of that good. Wake up. God has something better for you and our children than slavery. There are greater choices, and they come from Him, Almighty, and that is your inalienable rights. We have a republic that is dying right now, just barely holding on. Wake up. It's first part of this C, sound of freedom. The next will be the resurrection of the Christ, and then you won't have to ever see my mug ever again. Thanks.
Jim, God's children are not for sale. Everybody go to angel.com right now, War Room, and you put in code ANGEL10 for a 10% discount. We want to sell all 2 million tickets. But Jim's point is that weekend has got some of the biggest moves, I think. Indiana Jones, it's the competition's intense, but also because people don't want this film to come out. This movie, which is this quality, and Jim has told me, the structure of it's like a Hitchcock thriller. And we try to give very little away about the plot itself. You'll be on the edge of your seats, just the quality of the film. Well, Jim, we're now in the third year that the film has been released, and we're going to have to put some muscle. You're going to have to put a shoulder to the wheel on this. And remember, the purpose of what Jim is talking about is to make sure that middle third, your countrymen who are asleep on so many things, maybe this is what's going to wake them up to what the reality of what we're dealing with. Go ahead, Jim.
I want special thanks to guys like Jeff, Neil, Jordan, Harmon. These brothers are saints, what they've done from Angel. Those of you that know the show, The Chosen, these guys are absolutely spectacular, and really they're going to be the new industry. These are warriors that are willing to risk their reputations for this film. When they saw it, they saw the reaction. And there's a lot of people, again, we talk about the middle, people in the middle that are afraid. And what does Jesus tell us? He says, do not be afraid. I go before you always. Well, it's time to put up. Now, I'd love to talk to all of the church leaders that can get all of the people to go see this like they did with the Passion of the Christ. I thought maybe working with someone like Greg Laurie, getting that message out to the rest of the leaders in the evangelical world, Christians that are absolutely doing the thing. They're putting up. It's action. See, it's action. It's not just saying you love Jesus. It's actually doing something about it. So that's what I've tried to do, and this is one of those things. And yeah.
Okay.